So if you're a kid and you're starting a relationship and you're starting to get sexually experienced or whatever, but you don't want to bring the person home to meet your father, and you want to have your own things, you're trying to get away with the rules, you're trying to get the experience. But if they don't integrate with the home and can't talk to your parents, they don't meet everybody, they don't get a responsible take on it. Like the more difficult things can happen. So even though there's a need to work for anything, to achieve anything, you want to write a book, you're going to spend hours writing. You want to do anything, it's going to take time to learn. Time to learn Saturn, Jupiter. Learning is Jupiter, but the effort and the timing and the restraint, that's the Saturn. So these are very important functions in our lives. Now I'm just looking at what time we have left. We have about 45 minutes left. Okay, I was just trying to decide whether I just do. We have the three farther outer planets to deal with. So these three work together: Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. They're really important. They're just normal business relationships, what you're putting in energy out in the world, what you're doing. These are the normal things. Okay, they can get upset by the outer planets, but that's another thing. We'll come to it. But you want to see how Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn are there and how they work together. Just like the memory, the thinking, the alertness, and the values and the likes and dislikes work together inside the Moon, Mercury, and Venus. So the Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn work together as we get our experiences outwardly. So Mercury is making sense of things inwardly. Jupiter is understanding what's right and wrong outwardly from experience. If I rode the bike crazy, I took a risk, then it crashes and I broke a leg, then I'm going to have to learn how to fix the leg before I can get on the bike again. And I'm going to have to learn to be different after that. So like this. Okay. Now we have three outer planets. Now, in the world we're living in, over the next 50 years, they're going to find maybe another 40, 50, 100, maybe a couple hundred more outer planets. And planets we haven't seen because they're looking with much more accurate instruments. And they're looking with X-rays, and they're looking with infrared, and they're looking, like there's so many different ways that they're scanning the heavens and the universe and seeing. And as they're doing that, finding smaller elements in the solar system that are parts. So first we found the Chiron was there, and that's like is it a comet? Is it a planet? It's referred to as a comet, more or less. It's got an eccentric orbit, or maybe it's an asteroid, not a comet. I mean, but then they found Sedna, Makemake, Quoyar. There's going to be many other planets. So the idea amongst astrology, each planet means something. So they got to have another meaning to put it in a chart, another meaning to have it in a chart. So there's many planets that you can't see that we're going to be finding. I mean, kids in the future are going to have 30, 40 planets in a chart. Almost too much to read, too much information. So there's a certain perspective of knowing the planets. The rulerships, I started with using, like in the Western world, as the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto were discovered, you can't see them, but they were discovered by telescopes or by other means. And as they were discovered, it was interpreted that a new level of consciousness came into life, and this meant a new thing. And along with this, because there's 12 signs, maybe there's got to be 12 planets, one to rule each sign. It's not a proper logic, but that was the logic that came in. And then we have the new rulerships where people come and put Uranus, Neptune, Pluto ruling the signs of the zodiac. And really, the planets that you can't see are not dignified enough to rule a sign. It should be the sun, the moon, and the 5 planets you can see have the rulerships. And we talked about a bit about this before, but the planets you can see, they each have a masculine and feminine sign that they express themselves well in, and that they rule or are dignified in, and that covers up the 12 signs. As soon as the Western system decided to put new planets in as ruling signs, they disturbed the balance of the yin and the yang, the balance of the normal planets that you can see. So, okay, so there's a lot of misconceptions around. We're just going to hold true and try and develop some sense about how these planets work. So, Saturn's a 30-year cycle. Uranus is an 84-year cycle. You get one cycle of it in a lifetime if we live that long. It was discovered 1800, I'm not sure exactly now. In the 1700s, I guess. William Herschel might have been into the early 18s. I don't know. I just blocked it right now. So we can find it out. But that was the beginning of like an industrial revolution, steam power, and a lot of business started from it. But it was also a radical new time, changing the old order. And many of the things, interpretations of Uranus from the Western world is brought up to the shocking, the change of order, unconventional things. Excuse me. So I think of Mars as desire for experience, Jupiter is the assimilation of experience, Saturn is the results, and the results of what you got, the accomplishment, the discipline, the self-discipline. The outer planets are things beyond, above, so Saturn could be included as duty, could be that. So the outer planets are things above and beyond the call of duty. You can't see them directly, but the influence and the energy is there. So they certainly have an influence in a chart, but they shouldn't be ruling the signs because they tend to be interpreted too negatively to rule a sign. So each one has, but it has its own presence and they're easy to see. Okay, so we'll be spending more time talking about these things as we go along. Uranus, it's the first planet outside of Saturn. It's the planet of, I call it, where Saturn's the planet of responsibility and hard work. Uranus is the planet of excitement. We all have our duties, we all have our basic structure, we have the limits and the work in our life. And then anything that's shocking or exciting comes up, we always want to have moments. There's an entertainment, there's a fire, and we see something, we want to go see it. We like to have something that's feel, even in the midst of all of the discipline and dreariness, we can have some excitement. So this need to do something different, to be exciting, to have a little shock value. This is Uranus. We all have this need somewhere. What's shocking? We can be afraid of it, we can go with it, we can be instigating it, we can be upset, but we try to worry about it. But Uranus is the planet of sudden change and sudden change and shock. Those are the sudden change, shock, excitement. These are the different factors. I like to think of it as a natural process. It's excitement. So wherever Mars is in their chart, that you're going to be aggressive in that house and it's going to pick up the attitude of the sign. Wherever Jupiter is, you're going to expand and try and understand and try and figure it out. Wherever Saturn is, you're going to run into restrictions and limitations in whatever sign, in whatever house it's in, and it's going to pick up a certain sign or theme by which it does it. But Uranus is, wherever Uranus is, there's going to be excitement. There's going to be something that tries to break the odds or go beyond the limits of things, to be not so responsible. It's trying to bypass the structure of Saturn to get some excitement. You want to go out to the dance, you don't want to talk to your parents, they'll say no, so you want to go out anyways, and you go and have that adventure. So this process of excitement is where Uranus is. So wherever Uranus is in your chart, it's an exciting area. It's a nervous area. It's a place where you're unstable because it's radical. You not want to fit into the norm. You're trying to resist it. You're trying to break the structure or trying to find something different. So there's an eccentricity and an excitement and a nervousness and a restlessness to wherever Uranus is in the chart. Whatever, and an instability because it's trying to change. It's not stable. It's trying to make changes rather than stabilize things like Saturn. So wherever Uranus is in the chart, it's an unstable place that at times, if you've worked hard enough, you can really break through and get some real exciting achievements or exciting experiences. But normally, you try and break away from the authority and do something independently, and you're trying to pass the Saturn, and you end up having the shocking, exciting experience, but then at some point it comes back and you have to do the work to pay for it. So if you quit your job, I don't need to take these orders, oh God, suddenly you don't have a job, and it's disrupting other things, but you had your moment of freedom or excitement. So we see it as excitement, but from the excitement, we also have anxiety and worry, which is, Saturn causes depression and worry, serious thinking, strategies. Uranus causes excitement and worry, so it's an anxiety. You can't see the object, you can't see the planet, but I'm trying to be independent, I'm worried, is this going to happen? Is something going to be disrupted? Is the relationship going to hold together? Is it going to break up? It has a catalytic type of effect. It stirs up the pot and changes things. But if you're trying to make changes, exciting. If you don't want to make change, you're in a relationship, you want everything to be stable, it's a worry, it's a nervousness. So we all need a little bit of excitement, or need to do things our own way. That's kind of where Uranus is in your chart. Although the whole chart is that, but Uranus has an influence that makes you unstable in a certain area and want to do things differently. But often, usually, it's a place where there's a certain amount of anxiety. So if you have in the 10th house, where am I going to work? I can't work here. I can't take this. I can't put up with this. And you may end up with an independent job. If it's in the 5th house, you might have that anxiety about being independent and trying to bring up your kids your own way and not following the rules so much. But you could get a genius kid, but you could get a lot of anxiety around things that are holding your kids back. Whew. So this point of excitement, yeah, I would leave it. Excitement, sudden change, disruption, shock. We'll learn these planets, these other planets, more when we get to the transits and progressions, especially in the transits. But right now, it's enough to see it as this principle of excitement, shock, and sudden change. As a destabilizing factor, it's like if Saturn's the government, Uranus would be the unions that are trying to disrupt the government and take care of the worker. But in a certain way, they're still tied to the structures. Ideally, if you want to do something really radical, Uranus, exciting and radical, like climb the Himalayas, or go hiking out into the woods in the mountains where you've never been and try and do it by yourself. Usually it's a self-centered thing, the Uranus. But if you're prepared, you can really get that excitement. It works well. So if you've worked hard and then go for your excitement and independence, yeah, independence is another kind of keyword of Uranus. You're much more capable of doing it. If you just go and get the excitement and have the excitement without having worked for it, usually it destabilizes and it makes things fall away or break away, causes a shock or disruption.